Live from the WHBC Broadcast Center. Find out more about area businesses, agencies, and events.
It's what's going on right now.
This is Spotlight.
All right, good Wednesday morning, everyone. Welcome to Spotlight on this 21st day of February. And I should mention, first and foremost, we're live on Facebook right now. So go to our Facebook page and follow along if you'd like to. And I have a wonderful gentleman in studio with me this morning that I always love having him here because everybody has questions. Everybody has thoughts about buying a home or selling a home or what's the market like? What are we going to do? Is this the truth? And Dominic Fonte and Associates with Cutler Real Estate. Dominic Fonte is with me this morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Pam. Good morning, listeners.
Yes, and if you have questions for him, put them on Facebook, and we'll get them and get you some answers. Certainly, we would love to do that this morning. But I know that it's always you probably get questions all the time from people, I would imagine.
I do. Real estate's an important item in people's lives because when you think about it, Pam, real estate is probably the most expensive thing that most normal people do, right?
Yeah.
And on top of it, it's very emotional. So in other words, you don't normally fall in love with your mortgage, you fall in love with your house, right? So, you're always trying to be a balance between emotion and logic when you make these big life-changing decisions. So it's a very important thing, and I feel as a local expert, my job today is to inform the listeners so that if you are ever in the arena of thinking about buying, selling, investing, or building, I always say an informed decision maker is a happy decision maker. So that's really what I'm trying to accomplish today. Appreciate being on the show.
Yeah, knowledge is power. I say that so much, and that is definitely the truth. And sometimes it can be it's a scary thing when you're considering, buying a home, for sure.
Absolutely. Especially with all the headlines that terrify and really don't clarify, which I thought maybe we should talk about that a little bit of what people are maybe hearing. So if the listeners are out there, like Pam mentioned, if you have a question or concern or just not sure, which we understand because it's not like you do it every day, I'd say probably between age 25 and 75, maybe you might do it 3 times possibly in your whole life. So it's a scary thing, really, because there's a lot of intricacies.
Yeah. I'm just trying to see if I think we lost your microphone there for a hot minute. Let's change you on different microphone. We'll flip you right around. Yeah, because that one, I don't know why. Yeah, we'll just switch you. There.
Can you hear me?
No, for some reason.
Try now. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we got you.
Hey, everybody, we're back. So let me hit rewind.
Yes, go ahead.
Basically, what I was saying when my mic blacked out is that, real estate's a big thing. It's scary. It's emotional. And when you think about real estate buying or selling or just doing anything with it, between the age of 25 and 75, you might do it only 3 times. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of pieces, parts, and I think it's important to work with a professional, a local expert that gets it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so like you mentioned earlier, if there's anybody out there that just has a question, of course, send it to us on Facebook. Billy's watching for any questions. We'll try to answer it live. It's an emotional thing. It's scary, right?
Yeah,
So I always say an informed decision maker is a happy decision maker. So, that's really what the mission is today, is to inform you so that as you go through life changes and things, I would like to be there to help you and help hold your hand through the process.
And so many people are on social media. You hear little bits even on business news and things like that. You hear little sound bites of things, but that's not the whole story, right?
No. So I always talk about, since we're very busy, with our lives, our families, with activities, social media, everything is coming at us all the time. And so the attention given to certain things, it's hard to focus on everything. So my job is really to take the headlines we're hearing, and I'm hearing them too because I have conversations in the grocery store, at church, wherever. And so I always say headlines are terrifying, the sound bites terrify you, but they don't really clarify you because they don't go deep enough. And a lot of times if you see the headlines, it's like, wow, I heard foreclosures are up 115%. Now, that is pretty scary if you remember '08, right?
Yeah.
Remember '08 to 13 when the market tanked and we had all this inventory? It was scary. The other thing is that, there's a lot of people that would like to get into the arena, but they hear about the foreclosures, the interest rates, maybe prices are going to crash. These things are not true, and I'd like to dig a little deeper into it because I think today, by the time we finish with this hour, you're going to be very informed and very happy to know that the light at the end of the tunnel isn't a train. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
The opportunities are still good. The American dream's still alive and well. And as a local expert, I'm going to try to articulate that to you today.
And that's good to know because, you know, when people hear and see those things, then they may just give up the dream right away, right?
Well, I find, like, I have 5 children, so they're all across the country, and they even feel they're in their mid-20s or later 20s and even up to 40. The thing is, I think, that the younger people feel a little helpless, a little frustrated because there's so much negativity out there. We're not really getting to the truth of everything. Just like the headlines terrify, they don't clarify. This is not just in real estate, it's across the board. And so it's really hard to take the energy and the time to find the truth. And so I'm here in the real estate arena to tell you the truth. But in general, the younger people, I think, feel afraid and frustrated because wages, interest rates, supply, demand, the cost of real estate. Again, you know, the cost is up quite a bit over the last 30 years, right? Mm-hmm. And so they may feel they missed the opportunity to own real estate. That's not true. And I promise you, if you reach out to me, I would just give you all the information, the roadmap, the GPS, or the headlights in the dark to help you see the options to be able to be that informed decision maker. And I always say, if you're informed, trust me, you'll be happy.
What about, you know, oh, it's a buyer's market. Oh, it's a seller's market. What does that even mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. I get this a lot, and I talk about it a lot. Now, since this isn't really visual, I do have some slides. And if you reach out to me at dominicfonte.com or text me 330-418-1535, I can send you a PowerPoint presentation of what we're going to talk about today. But basically, what you always want to know is if you're looking east for the sunrise or the sunset, right? Mm-hmm. So like in real estate, the important thing is how many buyers are in the market, how many sellers are in the market, how long does it take to go through that inventory, and then the factors that are outside that would be consumer confidence. How do I feel about my 401k? How do I feel about my job security? How do I feel about the interest rates? So those things all play into what we're trying to accomplish here. But the point is with the supply and demand, we say, okay, I hear it's been a seller's market, and we talked about this before that, you know, people are paying way over asking price. They're waiving their inspections. They're doing anything to secure a home. Well, then the Fed, they raised the rates from 3 to 8%, which pretty much knocked a lot of people out of the marketplace because the supply was so low. So what does that mean in English? Well, if you want to see a balanced market, Pam, you're between 6 and 7 months inventory. We're around 3%, 3.2% nationally. And in our backyard, which matters when you buy real estate, say in Stark County and the surrounding areas, there's 2.4 months supply. Now, in English, what that means is if a balanced market's between 6 and 7 months, and we're at 2 months locally, that means it's still favoring the seller. Okay. So if you're a seller out there, it's good for you. But the bad thing is what people get scared about is if I put my house on the market, it sells right away, I don't have a place to move to.
Right.
And they feel like they're settling. And you don't want to do that, especially if you've been at this a while. So there's a mechanism in place to be able to help you, and I can guide you through that a little bit more. But right now, it's still favoring the sellers. And so in order for it to be more of a balanced market between buyers and sellers, we need another 3 months of inventory. Now, when the foreclosures say, well, it's up 115%, is that where they're coming from? No, because we had a 2-year moratorium on foreclosures. So remember during the pandemic, right, everybody had to stay home. So the banks did forbearances, and they also froze all the foreclosures for 2 years. Well, now they started back at foreclosures, so there is an uptick. But it's only a 2% uptick, which is still bad because if you lose your home, it's a bad thing, right? Yeah. But a 2%, prior to the pandemic was more like 5% or higher. And if you remember 2008, it was up to 35%.
My gosh.
So it's really, where are these houses coming from? And there's no way, with looking at our population, it looks tough. It's going to be a tough market. we need more houses. We need more houses built, in a nutshell.
Okay.
And
I was
there
going
are
to say,
more.
how do you catch up? How do you catch up?
Well, you got to build more houses.
Right.
And they did build 1.5 million last year, but we still need more.
Wow.
I mean, there's plenty of apartments, but, it's just an interesting market. I think as an informed person, as you understand that and kind of monitor the interest rates and your job security and what kind of down payment programs and all that, there's a lot of opportunities if you do know what the formula is, the combination.
Okay.
And that's really what I'm trying to unlock today for the listeners.
All right, welcome back to Spotlight on this Wednesday morning. Welcome to everyone watching us on Facebook this morning as well. Dominic Fonte with Dominic Fonte and Associates at Cutler Real Estate. And we've been talking about some very interesting things about the real estate market and buyers versus sellers and what's happening with the market and new construction. We've been talking about how we need more homes, right, Dom?
Amen.
Yeah.
So if you've been at it a long time, this is my 36th year, so I've seen a lot of, we'll say, real estate cycles. But in 08 to 13, what happened was there was a lot of construction going on at the time. And we had a lot of inventory as well. We had 7 months of inventory back then, where we only have 2 months now, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of supply, demand, rates weren't too bad. And then when the tsunami came in 08, when the whole bubble burst, because of lending practices and a lot of crazy things that happened, it was like a perfect storm, I guess, because of, people that were maybe a little less than ethical. Those builders were building like crazy. And again, we were just talking off air about, sometimes the builders rob Peter to pay Paul, right? Mm-hmm. And then if the house or the spec doesn't sell, then it ends up being a nightmare. Well, in this case, the lenders called the commercial notes due for a lot of the builders, forced them out of business. And then for 6 years, we had a huge lull in new construction, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at today's inventory, it has a lot to do with that shortage of new builds. Well, now the building market is up to 1.5 million sales. And actually, November of 23, this just a few months ago, new construction made up for 31% of total home sales in the U.S. So it is helping, but we're still low because of, the historical average is usually about 12% in November. So 33% is a huge uptick.
Yeah.
And so as we go forward, because right now, if you look at the U.S., usually we average around 5.5 million real estate transactions, right? And the builders made up 1.5 million of those transactions. But since 2023, the real estate market was off because of the interest rates, the economy. There was about 4.1 million sales.
Okay.
And when you look at the pent-up demand for people that would like to own real estate, the only reason why they're paying a premium for rent temporarily is because they got banged out of the market because the interest rates went up to 8%. It was 3% for how long?
Yes.
Then it went up to 6 and then 8, and now it's hovering around 6.5. But those new construction builds, I find people after COVID are taking a deep look at their home needs, and some people don't have to work at the office anymore. So home space is important. And I think people are wanting to make moves. I see people really changing the outdoor space, fire pits. They want to be by the parks. They just want to have more joy in their life. And I find that the McMansions aren't as popular. So I think people are thinking more conservative now.
Yeah, right.
Because I think they're looking more for a life balance, with, what do I really need and what do I want to experience? And I don't want to necessarily live for a house payment.
Yeah, my parents used to call it house poor.
Yeah, I can't go out and get a pizza because, I got to make that payment.
Right, right.
So it's kind of tricky, but I'd say when you look at the population, which I wanted to cover at the end, probably, the wrap-up, there's a huge demand of people that really would like to own real estate if they haven't been defeated in feeling like the American dream is not alive. Mm-hmm. Well, it is alive and quite well. I mean, we've been very busy, but part of it is I think it's a slower process because I think people are just nervous. They're not sure what direction to go. And I think, when I talk about being an informed decision maker, I'm talking about based on your personality, based on your finances and comfort zone. Even if the bank says you can afford more, you want to stay with where your comfort is. And I think it's super important to understand that so that you have a realistic expectation about what the market is and how you can fit into it to be a happy camper. Yeah. And really, that's what I would hope to accomplish. So keep in mind, if anybody's out there that wants to send a question to Billy, he's watching carefully.
On Facebook?
Yep. So if you have a question, I'll try to answer it live.
Yeah, we'd love for you to do that. Just go to our Facebook page, and you'll see our that we're live right now on Facebook, and you can ask any question you'd like, and Dom will do his best to help you out there with it. So when you are looking at people who are interested in buying a home these days, I mean, what are they looking for? I mean, are they looking for a newer home? Are they looking for something they can work on? Or
Well, it has a lot to do with your comfort zone. You know, so like if I grew up just thinking, well, like I'm not paying full price for anything, you know, then you might have a harder time because if the market, so when you think about the market, the whole year, a 12-month cycle, usually like, you know, around the holidays and early winter, the market's a little slower typically because people wait until April, May, and June, right? So there's more demand usually in April, May, and June. So therefore, you'll probably pay more money during that period because there's less supply, more demand, right? You know, and then off-season, you know, just like right now. So when I look at this chart, I know you probably can't see it real well. But if you look at the chart, it's just showing basically peaks and valleys. And what it's saying is that, you know, when you go through October to the end of the year, it's usually there's a little more inventory, although it's still very low. And so when you go through the cycle of time like that, you want to make sure, you know, if you're educated and you know what your comfort zone is, I always say, you know, 25 and 36% debt to income ratio. So like even if the bank says you can go to 44% debt to income ratio, and what that means is like, let's say the houses are a little bit more expensive now, right? And so if I take your monthly income times 25%, that would be a conservative amount for housing. But let's say you have a car payment, maybe you have a student loan, maybe even have child support, or you have some other, you know, credit card expenses. They don't really want to see you on the conservative side more than 36% in debt. And so that's the formula, the conservative formula, in my opinion. But if you go with an FHA or other types of financing, you can go almost up to 50% in debt. And then that's when I say you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble.
Right.
So you have to always look at the long view in real estate. So you always want to look at your, you know, your family dynamic, what your wishes are, your goals, how long you plan to stay in a home. So like, let's say if you stay in a home 7 to 10 years, if that's the average, well, then it's okay to go a little deeper because you're not going to make a quick change. But where you get into trouble is if you rush and make a quick decision, you pay more than you're comfortable with, but maybe you do it anyhow because your emotions make the decision, not the logic. Then what happens is you have anxiety over the course of time, and then you lose money when you sell it because you sell it too quick. So real estate is a long-term, long-view approach. They can build wealth. That's actually one of the biggest wealth builders in people. You know, normal people is their real estate. And then also it provides a nice atmosphere for your lifestyle, and you can customize it the way you like. And they typically go up in value about 4.5% to 5% a year. Okay. So that's, I mean, I think it's really it's individual of what you can be comfortable with. And I think that the job of the advisor, real estate expert, is really to help you understand what it is you really want. Now, I always start out with the pros and cons. So like if you're trying to make a decision or you're not sure, should I make a move? Should I make a buy, a purchase? Just write down what you believe the pros are to doing it, buying or selling, and what do you see as the negatives in your life to buy or sell. And then when you look at that, that helps you to decide logically, not emotionally, so that way there you don't regret your decision. And I think that's super important with real estate because it is an emotional decision. Yeah. Now, let's pile on top of that. You know, I don't know how many times I'll get a call from someone out of town. They'll say, hey, Dom, saw your reviews online. You look like a pretty good agent. Hey, just FYI, we're interviewing several agents. Unfortunately, my mom's going into a nursing home. We have to sell her house. We need the money to help pay her cost. So, you know, not only is it a stressful thing, you know, because the family member's coming in from out of town and in 2 or 3 days trying to make a decision. And there's all kinds of other reasons, you know, divorce, illness, financial. And so you pile that on top of this expensive emotional decision, and it can just drive you crazy. Yeah. And so my job is really to parse that, distill it down, and help you to make that informed decision, because it's a big decision, and it's not like we do it every day.
Yeah, and like you said, emotion as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd rather try to make a logical decision, help you make that logical decision. Then in the long run, I find that you'll be much more satisfied and happier.
All right, we are back on this Wednesday morning Spotlight, and Dominic Fonte in studio with me this morning. Dominic Fonte and Associates with Cutler Real Estate. We've got a couple of questions we're going to get to here from Facebook. Let's start first of all. We got a question. Used home prices are drastically overpriced. My 23-year-old daughter cannot afford to buy. Prices are ridiculously high for what you get. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep, we gotcha.
So that's a good question. I have 5 children, 4 girls and a boy. My boy, who is, he bought a duplex at 22. But I tried to guide them, and I understand. This is what we're hearing. This is what I was mentioning earlier, that the younger people feel it's hopeless. Like they missed the window of opportunity, and they're not going to have the lifestyle that we had or the older folks have. But it's not the case. It is a little harder because of what the gentleman said on his question. But here's
Don. His name is Don.
Don.
Yes.
So here's what I would say. We didn't mention price point, but you're right. The prices are much higher in the last 3-4 years because of, first of all, it was COVID. And then when that stopped and people realized how important lifestyle changes are, there was a mad fury to buy real estate because the rates were on the rise. Because since there weren't more inventory, they basically created this anxiety by raising those rates. It forced everybody to make decisions and pay these unbelievable prices, which brought our house prices up 20% in those 2 years, which is a dramatic change when really 4.5% is probably about the average over the past 43 years. So looking at affordability for your younger daughter or son or anybody, this is what I would recommend. We were talking off air about, where to go look and find these properties. My advice, Don, is work with an expert, someone that's savvy. I would probably meet with you and your daughter and kind of run you through the process of realistic expectations. Now, one of the things is vision. When they talk about sweat equity and probably, us as being, I'm an older fellow, I'm in my mid 60s. And so I've been around a long time. So I've seen these prices go up. They're going to continue to go up. And, at least 5%, 4 to 5%. I would say if you can, don't go to Zillow, don't go to all those third party sites. And the reason why is because they're not accurate. And so, people say, well, should I go to an auction? Or maybe I should buy a foreclosure. Maybe I should, call a real estate agent. Or maybe I should go to Zillow, Truly, or Realtor.com. So those are third-party aggregates. So that basically, you want to go to the gold standard, first of all. And the gold standard would be the multiple listing service. So what happens is everything that gets pushed out to all the other third-party aggregation sites, and by the way, they're not that accurate. So you want to work with a professional. Now, where I think you can benefit for your daughter would be buying a property, if you have the vision and the wherewithal, to buy something from grandma or somebody that has a dated house, because a lot of the younger people, they don't really want to buy an old beater house, or that's what they would think, but it really isn't that at all. It's better built, it's more quality, and honestly, I even have a booklet I put together because of this to help people see how to paint the cabinets, how to change minor little things, and you do that over time. So you buy a property, you move in, you fix it up over time, you stay there a minimum of 2 or 3 years. And then if she wants to sell it and capitalize on that and move on again and then eventually pay cash for a house. But at the very least, I think if you can have the vision to buy and take your time, don't be in a hurry. Look for the right people. Ask your friends, your family. I promise you, it's out there. It's just they're not as plentiful. And the other thing is if you're looking with a real estate expert, try to find a property that maybe – people thought, well, it gets a premium amount of money, so they put it at a high dollar amount. The agent that doesn't have great experience lists it at a high amount, sits on the market a long time, and then finally they bring that price down. So look at days on market. If it's a property that's been on the market a while, I would pay special attention, providing the location's right. And then as long as you can see that it's just more cosmetic, which could be like painting, flooring, countertops, light fixtures, right? Mm-hmm. Just those kinds of things go a long way. And a little road appeal, like take those old bushes out. So as long as you're okay and you can vision through that, that's how you build equity.
And
that's how you have an opportunity. So, I mean, that's basically how I did it. I bought my first home at 18% when I was 21 years old. And at the time, even though the price was $43,000, 18%, I was like, I thought that was a good deal because it was 23 prior to that. That was in 1981. And so I understand it can be helpless. Just work with an expert to help give you some guidance and just be patient and you will win. And I can help you win if you'd like.
That's a great, I mean, when you said sweat equity, I wasn't quite sure what you meant.
Yeah, that's
but now
I mean,
I get it. That's an awesome idea.
I mean, the flippers, how they made so much money during 08 to 13. Remember, a lot of those houses didn't even have copper pipes, so you can't get financing. So when the stock market tanked in 08, a lot of people pulled some money out and were paying cash for these properties, fixing them, flipping them, and or renting them. And then when the market went through the roof after COVID, and by the way, COVID's what drove this whole thing because that hurt the labor, the material costs, supply and demand, the interest rates, because that's really, it's always supply and demand. And I would just say, there's opportunities out there. My son, he was working with an investor. The investor had a relationship with someone. He got wind of it, and he ended up buying the house as is. It smelled like dog. There was dog food and dog doo-doo everywhere. And most people would look at that and say, oh, my goodness, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Well, here, I kind of worked with him a little bit, helped him see past that. And now it's a gorgeous place. He has equity. He's happy as a lark, and he's happy he did it.
Yeah.
So it can be done. It's just, I think, it seems a little depressing if you don't have the right guidance.
Yeah, but that's a great thought. And if you can if you can do that.
Let me know if I can help. I'll be more than happy to sit down with you and your daughter.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. I love that
There was another question.
Yeah, another question was, and this was from Dominic, I believe.
Dominic, I didn't say that.
Yes, this is a twin. Dominic wants to know what the difference between foreclosure and sheriff's sale is.
Gotcha. So kind of both the same. But here's what happens. So this is confusing, so I'm not going to go too deep down this tunnel. But when you get a loan, either at a bank or a mortgage company, and what the difference really is a mortgage broker might be like, they shop around supposedly and get you the best rate, I guess. But there's also closing costs, right? And so, but 95 or 98% of all the institutions, the local ones as well as the mortgage companies, make the loan with you. So in your mind, you think you're getting the loan at the bank. And then, like we'll say, some local banks retain servicing, they call it. So, and that's for them to pick up, CD, business, car loan, home equities, and all that. But really what's happening is they sell it to the secondary market. Now, you might have heard of this. Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and Ginnie Mae. Sallie Mae is student loans, so we're not going to really cover that today. But Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae are conventional loans, and Ginnie Mae is VA or FHA. So those are government loans, okay? So what happens is when you're late on your payment and, you try to get caught up, they'll work with you typically because they don't really want to foreclose. But let's just say for whatever reason, you go through a hardship, you can't recover, you go rent a place, you just let it go. Well, over the course of several months to a year, they actually take it back, and a lot of times it's fairly damaged. So depending on what institution, Freddie, Fannie, or Ginnie, a lot of times what happens is it goes to sheriff's sale. And when it goes to sheriff's sale, that's already a foreclosure. Now, what happens is when the person loses the home, they do have a right to buy it back for like, say, 90 days. But most people cannot. And then it goes at sheriff's sale. So you go to the sheriff's sale, and 90% of the time you won't get it because the person that has the note on it, the lender or Freddie, Fannie, or whoever it is, they send someone there to bid against you, and they buy it back. And then what happens is they take it back, and then they list it with a realtor and try to sell it at market value and do recovery. And then since the market is good for selling right now, they'll get multiple offers and get a fair return to save their loss. On the other hand, usually when you see a foreclosure in general, it's always going to be listed with a real estate professional because they don't just sell them themselves unless it's a sheriff's sale or it goes in the hands of a professional. And it's usually Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, or Ginnie Mae. Okay. And if it's one of those two, you'll know because it'll say in the remarks that it has to be for residential purpose only. So let's say, for example, I'm an investor. Well, I can't buy that foreclosure until after so many days because they want to offer it to the owner occupant before the investor.
Gotcha.
Right?
Right.
And so what happens is you're buying it as is. It's slanted for the foreclosure. So in other words, let's say you want to go in and nitpick it and you want to, ask for repairs. It's like what you see, you get, and what you don't see, you get. And so what it is they're selling more at a premium now because of the supply and demand. But there's still opportunities in that market. There's still opportunities at auctions. There's opportunities in the multiple listing service, which is the gold standard. But I would just say in general, get informed about what the market's doing in the area you're interested in. So realistically, if you're looking east for the sunrise or the sunset. And why I say that is because an informed decision maker is realistic and very happy because it is very confusing. And when you go on your own a lot of times, because I'm not saying all agents are created equal. A lot of the agents maybe are just, fumbling through it too. That's why I say, if you want to check me out, for example, go to DominicFonte.com. Check out my more than 435 star reviews and actually read them.
Yeah. And
you'll see what people are saying and you'll understand there is a difference. I think perceptually people look at real estate agents as all the same, kind of neutral, but that's not true. And again, it has to be when you talk to your professional advisor, it has to be with the heart of a teacher that they're explaining everything to you. They're your GPS. Because if they can't bring value or articulate value on what they're doing to help you solve this problem with foreclosures or how to find a good value, you're not going to steal anything. It's just the market is not such. The only way you get a better deal is if there's a lot more supply in the market. So what you want to do is take a hard look at the equity position because if you don't mind doing some work and having some vision, you can do it with the foreclosures. You can do it with the sheriff sales. You can do it with the short sales. Short sales were another big thing. And the short sales, which some people will buy when someone's in trouble, but it didn't go to foreclosure yet. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So there's many opportunities. It's just you have to be patient and you have to work with an expert that can help educate you so you make that informed decision.
You have to have someone like you to explain it. That's the whole thing.
It's a lot, I know. It's a lot to take in.
But that's okay. That's why you're here. Spotlight on this Wednesday morning. Dominic Fonte and Associates with Cutler Real Estate. And Dominic Fonte in studio with me this morning. We're live on Facebook right now. We've got some great questions. And absolutely send some more. We have about 8 more minutes before we head out. And we would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, post them up there. And Billy will get them to Dom. And he can answer them for you. And that was, like I said, I think that was awesome answers there for folks who are, just trying to navigate the whole thing. Like you said, it's so hard to figure out what's true and what's not true.
It's like, where's Waldo?
Yeah.
Like you're trying to, it's like this busybody collage and trying to figure out what is the right path. That's why I always say I'm your GPS or headlights in the dark.
Yes. And go to his website. Your website is
DominicFonte.com, DominicFonte.com. I would highly recommend, because I know how this is. It's a process. It isn't like you always say, well, I'm ready to buy or sell. It's like I'm kind of getting information. And that's why I say, where's Waldo? Because to get the correct information is brutal. Just so you understand my situation, I've been doing this for this is my 36th year, full time. I've helped 2,500 families and or real estate transactions. Think about that, 2,500.
Wow.
And so I've done it, and it's not always because of joy and excitement. It's because of pain and suffering. And so I learned it very well, so I'm very sensitive to what you're going to go through because I understand it very well. And so with the heart of a teacher, I would recommend reaching out to me or my team. You can always call 330-418-1535. You could either call or text. And it's no obligation to have a chat and to help you kind of point you in the right direction. I have a lot of good information, videos, all kinds of stuff. You can go to my YouTube channel. You can go to Facebook. You can text me. I'll send it to you. I'll make it as easy as I can because, it is very stressful. Yeah. I get it. Trust me, I get it.
Yeah, and people they go to the website and they can read your reviews and see what people who have actually worked with you have felt like, because I think that's really important. Like we said, it's got to be somebody that people trust, and then people can understand. For me, it's sitting down and saying, okay, explain this. because this is hard. You
Right.
know, it can be hard.
Right. And unfortunately, there's a lot of us out there. And if you only do it 2 or 3 times in your whole life, you don't want to be the guinea pig. So just take some advice. Read the reviews. That'll help you feel more comfortable. You know, I'm not going to call them buggy. I'm a busy guy too. So, you know, I'm just trying to help people build wealth and live a balanced, happy life.
Yeah, and find that place that's going to be your, you know, maybe your forever home, or maybe the one that just leads you to your forever
Well,
home,
like I
right?
mentioned earlier, you know, if, you know, a lot of times, you know, if you're not a wealthy person, which most of us aren't, you know, real estate's an important wealth builder. And so if you can somehow understand, I always say it's the dented wagon, you know, instead of throwing the wagon out, fix the dented wagon. And now it looks like it's brand new. And now you build equity and you're slowly building wealth. It's a forced savings plan. Sometimes it's a tax write-off, depending on if it's an investment or owner-occupied. And there's benefits either way, which we can talk about that more down the road if someone wants to reach out to me.
All right. And so also you have a special website that people can go to as well, correct?
Yeah, so this would be I have it on my card, which you don't have, but if anybody wants to know, I can always text you the link. But basically, if you want to see the reviews, just to understand, go to DominicFonte.com. But I have this landing page, and what this is if you go to D-O-M, what'smyhouseworth.com. That's Dom, D-O-M, what'smyhouseworth.com. Now, if you go there, it's a landing page. So you just go there, fill in the questions, which is your address and some basic information. And it's an algorithm. So it's tied into the multiple listing service, and it basically will pull data around your house. Now, it's a computer, right? An algorithm. Yeah. It isn't like they physically come into your house. They see your finishes, your updates or not updates. So it's just a ballpark, but it's really a neat report, and it comes to you within like a minute. It's like 20, 30 pages. It's really cool. Check it out. It's what'smyhouseworth.com. But of course, if you are just trying to get a gut check on planning for the estate, for financial planning, just, you know, in preparation for retirement, I get it all. So I do it all, you know. So what happens is you just want to get a gauge on value. Because you want to see what you have to work with in case you're, you know, moving to an apartment, moving to independent care, retiring into the South where the sunshine is, a little more vitamin D. A lot of people do that. And a lot of people right now are coming back from the South or California or Florida to move closer to family, and they're wanting to downsize. Yeah. So there's all kinds of interesting things happening, and I can assist you in the roadmap and the GPS of how to do that.
And when people are planning for, you know, maybe purchasing a home, you know, what's the very first step for them?
Well, so I think the first step is not getting pre-approved. It's doing a consultation with a local expert like I've been describing. It's actually a 15-step process from start to finish, unless it's cash. If you're a cash transaction, which 30% of the people out there pay cash,
wow,
then you bypass the appraisal, the lending side of it. So what I do is we sit down and we do a little 30-minute consultation to kind of explain the overview and give you the book that I talked about on, you know, if you're wanting to build some sweat equity, right, of some visual things that are really powerful. And then also, you know, about open houses, how those work, the multiple listing service, Zillow, Trulia, and just basically tips on that stuff. And then usually I give you a 30-page guide on very important, relevant information to what's happening in today's market. And so that's stuff, and it's no charge. I just do it in the hopes that if you do need assistance, and even if you don't, you'll refer me to all your friends and family anyhow. And that's how I get most of my business is word of mouth. Or they go online and read the reviews, and they say, okay, we'll at least talk to him. And if he's not totally incompetent, we might even work with him. So that's the gist of it.
That's awesome. Well, we always love having you on. It gives a lot of people a lot of information, and we appreciate you sitting down with us and being on Facebook. And I know that we'll have a chance to talk with you again soon. Okay, sounds good. If you want to reach out to me, my name is Dominic Fonte, 36 years in the business. My number is 330-418-1535. Call or text, or go to DominicFonte.com to check out my more than 430 5-star reviews. Or if you'd like, you can even send me an email at Dominic@DominicFonte.com. Hope you gained some good information today. Enjoy the beautiful sunshine in Ohio.